So, Logitech wheels. They're one of the best options if you want to sim race or sim drift on a budget, but they do have a big flaw. If you flick it hard enough, because of the weak motor, you have to kind of catch the wheel and flick it back to transition. The wheel will eventually get kind of dislocated, what I would call bending, because the wheel in real life would not match the wheel in game. Just from this quick demonstration right here, if I straighten it out, you can see the wheel is pointing sideways, and the wheel in game is pointing forwards. Also, I usually use a bigger wheel with an adapter. One of my most recent posts on Instagram, I've complained about the issue we're talking about right now, and a lot of people have been saying it's because of the bigger wheel. And I do not believe it, because I've been running this smaller wheel, the stock one, for a couple of years before I switched to the bigger one, and I've had the same problem. So, it's time to fix it. Alright, so the first thing you gotta do is, of course, unplug everything. Unplug it from the PC and from the wall, so we don't run any current through the wheel. We're gonna need an Allen key. Take off these middle bolts. And just to clarify, we're taking off the top cover so we can get to a certain part of the mechanism that we will add 2 washers to. Okay, this just pulls out like that. Now I don't have all of the screws in the wheelbase because I've done this before just to see if it works, and I was kind of lazy to put them all back together, so I think I only have 4 in here. So you will have all of the 8 screws, and you will need to remove all of them. I hope I'm getting all of this in shot. Okay, so the screws are removed from here. Now we need to take off the hub just by gently pulling it out. Right, so the little cable right here, be careful with it. Just pull on the side, just wiggle it out. You don't want to break that, otherwise the buttons won't have any functionality. There you go. Then in here you have 3 screws, which you also need to remove. Now you might notice that my top cover is already lifting. That's because I had this apart previously, and I cut a hole in the bottom just to make sure that I have easier access to the internals. Normally I wouldn't have to do this, but just for the sake of the video, I'm gonna go step by step, just removing all the necessary parts, just like on any other G920. This should also, by the way, work on G29s if you're facing the same issue. The internal structure is the same, just the buttons and removing the wheel. Personally, I don't know if there's any significant difference to removing the wheel. If there is, I will link a video down below which explains it. There you go, pull this off to the side. Now you can take off the top cover. Mine goes off a bit easier just because of the aforementioned hole. Here we can see the internals. And we will be focusing on this part right here. We could remove this connector and this connector, or disconnected, just so you have easier access to the screws of the little daughter board. Should I? Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Right, so pulling from the side. You don't want to pull from the connectors, otherwise you can break it. It'll be a bit finicky, but just take your time. Opa. There you go. Then the other one, next to this one, there's a smaller capacitor. You don't want to break that off. It's gonna be a bad time. Always grab by the connector, not by the wires. Okay, so we have these 2 screws right here. That's what we're gonna unscrew. There you go. And then the other one. This is it. Inside of this motor, there is a little magnet. I believe that has to do something with tracking the location of the wheel in real life to the signal input to the game. And what we want to do is you want to take the smallest possible washers. Yeah, you see that? Smallest possible washers, and you want to place them in between this and the daughter board. the little daughter board. And what I've found is the easiest way to doing this, a little bit of adhesive. Got this from AliExpress for a couple bucks. Putting them on, putting a little bit on the thing, yeah, there we go. So it's a bit on, and then putting it onto the screw holes, like so, like that, yeah. So like this. Now the adhesive isn't conductive, so it's not gonna break anything. Then the other side, it is the opposite, I believe. Yes. So like this. There you go. So we have one washer here, one washer here, and those go towards the motor. And then just put this all back together. Okay. Yep, that ain't going nowhere. Put these back. There we go. We need to get the cover back on, like that. Yep, make sure it clicks. I won't be putting all the screws back on because I just don't think it's necessary for me. Put the hub back on. So just route those through. Make sure it's aligned. Press one screw, second, third. There we go, that's tight. Just plug this back in, route the cable inside, should fit in snugly, and the wheel. Okay, let's test it. And let's see if it works. I'm gonna do a couple of laps. If you remember from the previous clip, I did maybe 3 corners and it already bent. Let's test it out. Should be fine. Okay, I've just done 2 or 3 laps, I believe, and the wheel is still straight. As you can see, right here is straight. In game, it's perfectly aligned. Didn't do anything other than throw it around, try and drift, crashed a couple of times, which is normal, and still works. Still works perfectly fine. Now, I mentioned before that I made a video complaining about the same issue we're addressing right now, but I did have the fake OMP wheel from Wish, and people were saying it's because it's a bigger diameter. This is a 350, and the normal Logitech one is 270, and it's heavier than the Logitech steering wheel. With that in mind, it puts more strain on the drivetrain of the wheel. People were saying that that's the issue, right? Which of course I don't believe, because I had the same problem with this one. As I demonstrated in the beginning of the video, we had a normal wheel and it still had the same problem. Now let's switch back to this one and do a couple more laps, and we'll see if it's fixed or if it's actually the wheel. Okay, big wheels on. As you can see, we're still in game. There have not been any cuts, only sped up footage. And now I will do a couple more laps with this wheel, just to prove to you that it does not matter if it's the stock one or the bigger one. Okay, I just did 3 laps, same line as before, just bigger with the bigger wheel, and as you can see, in game it's perfectly straight, and in real life it's perfectly straight. If for some reason this doesn't work for you, the guy in the video that I followed, which is down below, he mentioned that you should add another pair of the washers, just double it up, and that should hopefully fix it. I'm happy to answer any comments down below if you have any questions, and that's it.